Hello everyone. Welcome to our channel. Today, we're going to dive into a tense and dramatic story. CEO James's company is in danger as John, a key investor, suddenly withdraws his funds and breaches the contract, pushing the company into a tough situation. Not only that, John's actions have severely impacted hundreds of farmers who are relying on the water supply from this hydroelectric project. Does CEO James have what it takes to protect Diep and save the company from collapse? What evidence will come to light? Can the truth turn the situation around? Don't miss the thrilling developments ahead. Make sure to hit like, share, and subscribe to our channel so you won't miss out on the most exciting stories. Let's get started. The situation is becoming more intense than ever. Lawyer Ha sits in his office, silently reviewing every file, every document related to CEO James's lawsuit. Thoughts still echo in his mind: a complicated case, a high-risk hydroelectric project, and an investor named John, who violated the contract and suddenly withdrew all his funds. The company is now in crisis, but the current evidence is still insufficient to convict John in court. At that moment, an uninvited guest appears. John, the central figure in this case, walks in, not to explain or justify himself, but with a different purpose, a tempting offer. He bluntly asks how much James has paid Lawyer Ha, then immediately presents a number 5 times higher, with one condition: make the lawsuit fail. For a moment, time seems to stand still. In front of Lawyer Ha is not just an offer of money but a choice between ethics and honor. A staggering amount, 500 million VND, is placed on the table as an invitation. John does not hesitate to emphasize, as long as the case is lost, the rest of the money will be his. Faced with temptation, Lawyer Ha hesitates. He knows exactly what he should do, but with such a large sum of money, can he truly stand by his principles? On one side is justice, on the other is personal gain. One side is responsibility to his client, the other is the allure of money. What path will Lawyer Ha choose? Will CEO James's company withstand these underhanded tactics? Or will money decide the outcome of the lawsuit, leaving behind all the stress and troubles? Today, we will join Diep in the forest to harvest bananas. The serene mountain scenery unfolds before our eyes, peaceful and refreshing. The gentle sunlight filters through the leaves, and the cool breeze carries the fragrance of the plants, bringing a sense of tranquility like never before. Diep walks along the familiar trail, surrounded by lush green banana trees, their heavy clusters hanging low. Standing in front of a banana tree at its ripest, she decides to start the harvest. One bunch falls to the ground, unfortunately already spoiled, but that's okay. There are still plenty of good ones waiting to be picked. The ripe bananas are golden and plump, exuding a mild, sweet aroma. Diep smiles, gently touching each cluster before carefully cutting them down. This bunch is perfect, ripe and evenly colored, surely delicious. She carefully separates them into smaller portions for easier transport. Today is a wonderful day to enjoy nature and embrace the peace of the mountains. Fresh air, sweet fruits, truly an unforgettable experience. The scene opens to a spacious setting where CEO James and his younger brother meet to discuss crucial decisions ahead. Amid the light afternoon mist, the atmosphere feels heavy, signaling a conversation that will not be easy. James speaks first, expressing his concerns. He holds the evidence that could send John to prison. But this is not merely a legal decision, it is also a matter of ethics and past grudges. His younger brother listens calmly before offering his perspective. If their family had once caused harm to John's family, should they be too quick to make this decision? If personal resentment drives John to jail, would that truly be justice? James remains deep in thought, but he cannot ignore the struggles faced by his company and the hundreds of farmers depending on it. John's actions did not just target him personally, they affected an entire community. The fields are waiting for water from the hydroelectric project, and the farmers are relying on their wages to sustain their livelihoods. The conversation is filled with mixed emotions. The brothers carefully weigh their options. If negotiations fail, they will have no choice but to take legal action against John. As the tension eases, the discussion shifts toward more practical matters. James receives the funds needed to pay the workers, affirming that no matter how difficult things get, They must ensure the employees are not left suffering. Before parting ways, they agree that it is time to establish a proper office, a place where employees and small branches can gather, exchange ideas, and grow together. James stands up, carrying both the money and the unresolved thoughts weighing on his mind. The final decision has yet to be made, but at the very least, they now have a clearer path forward. The tension was palpable from the very beginning as John conversed with his subordinates, ordering them to proceed with the plan to bring down CEO James. His voice carried unwavering determination, even a hint of menace. But just then, James made an unexpected entrance, causing John to pause. The conversation between the two quickly escalated. James, no longer maintaining his usual composure, directly exposed John's schemes. He laid out the severe consequences of John's actions, not just for the company but for the hundreds of farmers now pushed into hardship. These hard-working people, who only wished for a peaceful life, were now suffering because of John's personal vendetta. John remained unfazed, even brazenly admitting that he was merely using James's own methods against him. He provoked, taunted, but James was prepared. He refused to let anger cloud his judgment and instead presented a solution, a way for John to avoid prison. James's proposal was more than just a negotiation, it was a warning. He offered John a choice: if he convinced the stakeholders to reinvest and stopped making life difficult for the innocent farmers, then all could be forgiven. But if he refused, James would not hesitate to use the evidence against him in court. John was stunned. He hadn't expected James to remain this composed, nor had he anticipated being backed into a corner so swiftly. Yet, even as he found himself in a weaker position, he remained defiant. Begrudgingly, he agreed to back down, but deep inside, he was far from finished. As the conversation ended, the tension lingered. James had set the terms. But would John truly accept them? Or was he merely retreating temporarily to prepare for another move? The answer remained a mystery. James stepped outside and got into his car, but his heart was still not at ease. This victory had been a stroke of luck, but he knew all too well that if he wasn't careful, John could return with an even more dangerous plan. His face was somber, his eyes gazing thoughtfully into the distance through the car window. He wasn't just thinking about John. His mind was also occupied with the future of the project and the farmers who depended on its stability. Would John truly stop here? Or was this just a temporary retreat before making his next move? James knew he couldn't afford to let his guard down. But then, the weight of those worries began to fade as his thoughts drifted to Diep. It had been far too long since he had spent quality time with her. Since they had shared a peaceful meal together, amidst the storms of work and conflict. Diep had always been the safe harbor he needed most. Everything seemed to be approaching its conclusion. Perhaps it was finally time to set aside the tensions and return to something warm and familiar. Diep stepped into the grocery store, carefully selecting small gifts to bring to her mother. It had been a long time since she was last able to arrange her schedule to visit. A mix of excitement and guilt filled her heart. She knew her mother had been waiting for too long. As Diep walked into the house, her mother was just as she remembered, gentle and always worrying about her daughter. Their conversation was warm, yet tinged with a bit of concern. Her mother wished for Diep to move back home, not wanting her to live alone so far away. But what about Diep? She had grown accustomed to her current life, to the responsibilities she carried for James and the farm. It wasn't an easy choice. On one side was family, the love of a mother, the place she could always return to. On the other was the life she had built, the things she was still striving to accomplish. Though she declined her mother's request, Diep promised to visit more often. It was her way of balancing duty and love. Her mother understood, yet she couldn't hide her longing, no matter how valid Diep's reasons were. In her heart, nothing would bring greater happiness than having her daughter by her side every day. As they shared a simple, soft cake together, the moment was filled with warmth. A mother's love, a daughter's devotion, no matter the distance. They would always be connected. James visited Diep's house, but she wasn't there. Looking around, he guessed she must have gone to work or had other errands to run. After a moment of hesitation, he decided to cook a meal himself, a little surprise gift for her. It had been a long time since James stepped into a kitchen. fumbling with simple ingredients. But it wasn't long before a thin wisp of smoke started rising, not a good sign. Just then, Diep returned home. The surprise on her face quickly turned into laughter when she saw James struggling with the food. A powerful CEO, used to making big decisions, now looked completely out of place in a small kitchen, even a little clumsy. James explained why he had come, about the stressful time he'd been facing with the company's troubles. He even mentioned having to fake an illness to deal with his rivals. These were things he wanted to share with Diep, to let her know that no matter how busy he was, he always thought of her. Diep didn't blame him, nor was she upset. She understood his work, understood how much he had to carry on his shoulders. What mattered most was that today, he was here, spending time with her. That meal, though imperfect, was warmer than anything else. A successful CEO and a simple girl, neither needed fancy words. Just peaceful moments like this. The meal was simple but warm. James and Diep sat together, sharing stories of the past. They began with a short prayer, wishing for good things to come. James felt a bit uneasy mentioning the meal he had just cooked, knowing it wasn't perfect, but seeing Diep happily eating and praising his cooking made him feel relieved. Their conversation gradually shifted to more important topics. James asked about Diep's mother's health, and when he heard that her condition had improved, he let out a sigh of relief. He also inquired about Diep's decision after her mother expressed a desire for her to move back home. Slowly, James opened up about his work and the difficulties he had been facing. He no longer hid anything from Diep. He wanted her to understand why he had to fake an illness, why he had chosen to face everything alone in silence. Diep didn't blame him, she understood. She knew that some things James had no choice but to handle on his own. And she respected that, but she also hoped that from now on, he could share more with her so she could stand by his side. James spoke about his future plans, about the online business project he wanted to develop. He wanted Diep to have a better path, one that didn't involve the exhausting labor of the mountains and forests. He hoped that one day, Diep would no longer be just a poor girl but a symbol of perseverance and relentless effort. Diep listened, and a sense of hope rose in her heart. She knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but with James by her side, she believed she could make it. The conversation between James and Diep was unfolding warmly when, suddenly, Diep's uncle appeared. His gaze was stern, carrying a look of disapproval. "Diep, step outside for a moment. I need to talk to him alone." James looked at Diep, then gave her a nod. He understood that this was a family matter, and perhaps Diep needed some space to talk with her uncle. "All right, I'll wait for you outside," she said. Diep nodded, and James stepped out of the house, leaving her and her uncle face to face. "Uncle, what brings you here?" Diep asked, slightly surprised by his sudden appearance. "I came to check on your farm, to see how things are going. But more importantly, I want you to stay away from that James. He's not a good person." His words made Diep freeze. This wasn't the first time he had warned her about James, but she didn't understand why he had such a negative opinion of him. "I've told you many times before. You should look into it yourself and see if he's really as good as you think." "But what do you mean? James has always been kind to me," Diep said, confused. "Do you know why James's father left Vietnam in such a hurry right after returning?" Diep's eyes widened as she stared at her uncle. That question struck like a bolt of lightning in a clear sky. There was something hidden in the past, something she had never known. Does Diep's uncle's warning hide a truth about James that she has yet to discover? What secrets lie in James's family's past? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Do you believe James is truly a good person? Or could there be hidden secrets yet to be revealed? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss the next episodes. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.